So we have discussed what is S3, its definition, what are the different characteristics when it comes to while uploading, what is the maximum size, I mean maximum object size, it is if it's through GUI and if it is through CLI 5 GB and it is an unlimited storage we have discussed and we call it a bucket in the file people set object and the name of the bucket should be unique globally and this is 100% object based storage. This is 100% object based storage. And its availability, durability. So and they have given multiple tiers. So what is the difference between each tier? Why they named the tier? What is the difference between each tier? So we had discussed something there are 5 or 6 types of tiers. What is the difference between each tier? We have discussed. Why they have named the tier? Why not they have only one type? So the difference is first of all availability, durability. The first type of tier is having more availability, more durability, and with more cost. And the last one will have less availability, less durability, and less cost. And how can we choose which type of storage is required for us? Depending upon the requirement, depending upon the project requirement. I have given you example of that log. So do these telecom people, banking people, will they store the logs in expensive storage or the cheapest storage? Because every day they get millions and millions of logs get generated. And what is life cycle? Where do you apply this life cycle? On top of TX storage. So life cycle means after 30 days, I wanted to go to next type of storage. After 60 days, I wanted to go to next type of. After 90 days, I wanted to get deleted that particular object completely. So to remember life cycle, you need to remember that line so that you'll remember easily. Data loses its importance as time goes on. So once the data has lost its importance, we want to move it to the cheapest types of storages. Everything is fine. Just a moment. So how is it now? Is it okay? It's okay. Still, if you are feeling a bit low, then you can. Next week, we have discussed versioning. So what are the advantages of versioning we discussed? Who is that? Please be on mute. I can hear the background. Who is it? Manjunath. Versioning means you can keep a track of your different versions of files, and then it acts like a resetting. That means you can recover whatever the object you have deleted by mistake. Encryption we have discussed 2 types: S3 standard and key management service. And finally, we have discussed access controllers. In short, we call ACL and bucket fault. So, on top of this, there are some more things we need to discuss. So let's discuss. Fine. So what did we discuss yesterday? These S3, they are given the different classes of TX. Actually, they are not A, B, C, D. These are the official names. The first one is standard, intelligent tiering, standard infrequently accessed, S3 one zone infrequently accessed, S3 glacier, S3 glacier deep archive. Okay. So here you can observe. So what will happen? Let's say this is the cheapest one, the glacier deep archive. So what is the availability and durability? To get the data, you need to wait 4 hours. So is there 98% availability here, 99% availability? If you choose the type of storage is glacier deep archive, No, see, you need to wait 12 hours. Again, glacier means you need to wait 2 to 5 hours. So these are the names. These are the names given to the type of storage by the AWS. Actually, initially there were just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 7. They removed 2, and then they included 1. So now that is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 5 plus 2. So now there are total 6 types of storages. So the same thing, the concept you know, the difference between each type of storage is these things, availability, durability, and cost. So try to remember these things, okay? Try to buy hard, moving further. While practicing, you will see it work. So try to buy hard these things. I mean the name, this one. So this is the expensive for this number in the same 1, 2, 3. This is the order, proper order, whatever. Of course, we will do practical. There also you can see. You need to see here. So while practicing only you can see it. And next, prices. So what do you think, guys? So generally, how AWS will be charging you? What do you think? What can be the scope? What are the different aspects they can charge you? So definitely it's a
Yeah.
storage module. Yeah. So definitely it's a general thing. What do we think? Since it's a kind of storage, maybe they are charging us for how much amount of storage we are storing. Accordingly, they will charge. Is it only the amount of storage, or can be anything else? What do you think? So just imagine. Just imagine. I'm giving you a hard disk. I'm giving you a hard disk for rent. So how can I charge you? Like based on time or what? Based on amount of storage you have used or what? How can I charge? What?
Based on storage.
Based on the storage. So technically speaking, we have only that in mind because there is nothing much to charge you other than storage. So let's see whether it's the only thing or any other thing. We'll see in the next slide. But in this slide, these are some pricing they have given. So let's say if you're storing in a standard type, the first expensive type. So how much they are charging for the first 50 terabytes per month? They are charging 123 per GB. Next 450 terabytes, they are charging 22 per GB and all this. Like, similar. Next comes the second type. It's intelligent TV. So frequent type is the first 50 terabytes, next 450. So next after comes in the same thing infrequently access. That means you don't access very frequently. Maybe for 1 week you're accessing only sometime in that you can store it infrequently access. So it will be a bit cheap compared to the frequently access thing. Okay. And then exclusive S3 standard infrequently access. So so this is the cheapest one. Glacier deep arcade. How much? Yeah, almost. This is 14. This is less than the total. Very cheap. No. This is a standard pricing in the market. Sorry, these are the standard price in the AWS. Yeah, this is the standard prices. You can search in the internet. You can search pricings of AWS services. They will give you clearly EC2 how much charge they are charging for different types of instance. For S3 how much they are charging depending on type of service. This is a standard one. In one class we have discussed types of payments also. So let's say you are taking for room, you are paying in between advance and so you will get some discount. But ideally, technically speaking, these are the standard charges. For every service you can find. So please do it. Once you are done, please do it. Please just promote. So you see, so not only storage, you see, not only storage. This is not only charging us bill only for storage. There are some other things also. So let's discuss them one by one. The first thing in India, the amount of according to the amount of storage you are storing, you will get the bill. That is one thing. Nothing technical in there. Next, request. What do you mean by request?
Request to store a data or something.
No, not request to store data. Request to store data.
Request to access the data.
Right. Request to access the data. Already you have stored the data inside the S3 bucket. These are objects. So who will be requesting them? Your customer. Let's say take an example of Flipkart. So let's say you're buying an iPhone. So what if you have some 7 or 8 images of iPhone, right? So where are these images placed? Maybe let's say they're placed in S3 bucket. That website. So whenever request you want to download, let's say you want to download that image, so that you for you downloading it is a free of cost, but Apple company has to pay to the Flipkart for each download the customers have done of the images of the iPhone, because AWS company is maintaining for you, for Apple company, the images in the bucket, and giving the customers of the Apple whenever they want they can download this. So that's why the Apple company has to pay to the Flipkart. We don't pay, because if Apple company says my customers will pay for you for each download, will you download first of all the images? You won't do shopping. So what will the Apple company, they will pay? It's okay. Just give me at the end of the month how many customers have downloaded the iPhone image, I will pay accordingly to you. So it's one. So what are the types of requests? Put and get. What is the other name for put? Get means
Upload.
download. So sometimes you want to upload. Sometimes being a customer, so sometimes you upload, right? Whenever you got any technical issue, what the Swiggy or Zomato people do, send us a
Yes.
screenshot.
It is like OLX.
Right. Yeah. So like send us a screenshot. We'll get back to you. So what you will do, you will click the image or do a screenshot and upload it. So where it is getting uploaded? It's getting to the S3 bucket. So it's a put request. Similarly, you wanted to download the link to get request. So for each request, someone has to pay to the AWS. Whether you have to pay or your, I mean, from where you are getting the services, that company has to pay. Ideally, 99.99% we won't pay. Companies will pay, depending on that means, because they are giving services for it, so they will take care of the payment. Maybe that is included as part of your service, that we don't know. And then this third one is storage management pricing. So we already discussed. So A is more expensive, E is the cheapest, like this. So depending upon the type of storage, the charge also will be different. Because here you are having more availability and more durability. That's why you need to pay more money costly. But when it comes to maybe C, D or D, it will be less. It is there, but it is a bit less compared to A. And finally, E means not at all there. I mean, it is there very less in the E. So that's why the cost is also less. So that's why your charge for depending upon the storage tier also. If you're storing in A type of tier, it is another charge. You will get a bill differently. If you're storing in C, it will get differently. If you store in A, it will be differently. Like, and next is transfer acceleration. This I will explain later. The next coming issue, these two slides belong to transfer acceleration. Just skip that and we'll discuss data transfer pricing. Okay. So what do you mean by data transfer? Data transfer.
We have created two S3 packets. We have the transfer data from one bucket to another bucket. I mean, that is the data transfer.
Let's say I have created a Mumbai S3 bucket in Mumbai region, and I have some folders and files inside this. So maybe you want to copy it to the Singapore region, or since your colleague asked, I want the same images and folders. What you need to copy, and how it is getting copied? Who is copying? Whose internet you are using here? AWS internet. So you have to pay for the data transfer. How much amount of data you are transferring? You have to pay
But
for that.
so one question here, that S3 is not the region based, it is the global, right? So how we are creating in Mumbai region or Singapore region? So it is going to create globally, right?
What do you mean by global?
global means that is not based on the region, right? So when yesterday we saw that,
Mhm.
whenever we are creating the S3, so you mentioned that it is a global. So whenever we are creating the name of the bucket or whatever, so it is on the global level,
Then I
not the
said name
region.
of the. I said only the name of the bucket. The
So
name of
when we
the
are
bucket
going
is
to,
globally unique. So I will
so
create
when,
here something Raven's bucket here. I will keep some side. Between these two, I want to copy the thing.
okay, but it's stored in region only.
You can either your bucket can be in the same region, it can be in different region. That doesn't matter. You can create buckets in any region. Same like EC2. You can create in Singapore region, Mumbai region like that.
Okay, okay. No, I thought of like it is a global, so how we are mentioning the region only. Okay.
No, global means only naming convention is global. Other than that, I did not say anything about global. Make sure the name should be unique. That is what I mean by global. Other than that, the same thing. You can create a new region like ACP, how you create. Yeah, so for this you will be paying, or else if you are trying to access the thing from EC2, you are trying to access EC2, so you wanted to download these objects or upload anything from EC2 to here, download anything from EC2 to here for data transferring. That also will be pricing. That means if you're trying to copy things manually, not automatically, like manually if you're trying to copy in that scenario. Yeah, this I will say later as it. So this is statement. And then cross region replication. So which is an automatic process. So it's okay, fine. First let's what is replication? What do you mean by replication? Another word for replication is you can say something like replica. Have you yes, have you heard about replica? Same that it looks like a replica, they say. Replica means it looks exact same thing, exact copy. So here what is happening? So let's say I have a three bucket in Mumbai region and I have another bucket in Singapore region. So as per my project requirement, whatever the objects or folders I am creating and uploading in Mumbai region bucket, S3 bucket, the same thing should be get copied to the Singapore bucket. That also automatically, not manual, automatically. So whenever someone upload anything to my Mumbai S3 bucket to that particular bucket, the same thing should be get copied within seconds to the Singapore bucket. That also automatic. So that is called first of all this method of this style of the objects or folders getting copied automatically from one region to another region is called as replication. Why cross region? Cross region means different regions. So here I said Mumbai and Singapore. Of course, the name says cross region, but the process is whenever you upload any object to any of the source bucket, automatically it should get copied to the destination bucket. Whether the destination bucket can be in the same region or different region. Let's say this can be in Mumbai also. But in this example, I said it is in Singapore, but that can be in Mumbai also. The concept is not about the buckets, say in which region it is. The concept is about getting the objects getting copied automatically. That is the concept here. That is called cross-region replication. So for this
So,
purpose, I will charge you.
so this is maybe the example of disaster management when we are copying, replicate the data from one region to another region.
Yes, right, sir. So even though you lost data, for some reason you lost, let's say, infrastructure of complete one region. Mumbai's SP bucket all, but still you have the same data available in another region's SP bucket because everything is getting copied time to time immediately.
And so, how it is different from EBS then, S3 and EBS?
Yeah, that you will understand. So exactly, you see, I said EBS is a kind of hard disk. I said EBS is exactly hard disk. But what did I say in yesterday's class? Yesterday is something like Google Drive. So now you can get a clear picture. So let's say that your laptop is there. For your laptop, EBS means you will connect external hard disk or pen drive. Pen drive or hard disk falls under EBS. But what is S3 for your laptop? Google Drive. So that means this S3 you cannot attach directly to the machine, but you can access it through net. That means this is a separate different service. EC2 is a different service. You should access it maybe through command line interface we will access, or we have to go to the S3 GUI and you can access it here. But whatever you have stored in S3, how can you access it from your laptop? Through CLI, command line interface. So for that you need to know some CLI commands that we will be discussing in the coming classes. What are command lines through where you can access these services from EC2?
So what would be the real-time example of storing data in S3? Uh, so for example, like in EC2 machine, right? So we have the EBS block, so where we have C drive or D drive. So
Mhm.
that is C drive related to operating system or some data, or D drive having some other data. So what data we are storing into S3 as per real-time example?
Nothing like that. There is no type of data. The type of data you are storing in S3 is depending upon a project requirement. Let's say there are 100 EC2 machines. So each EC2 machine has its own EBS volume attached. So let's say you are working on some any other machine. Let's say you are working on some 50th mission, but you want to access some data which is not there in the CBS, which is attached to that particular machine. That's why whatever the common data is present, which should be accessible commonly by complete team, that we will place in S3. Why? Because S3 can be accessible from any EC2. It is not like a EBS. Can you attach one hard disk to many laptops or only one laptop?
Single laptop.
Only one laptop. Uh, can you access Google Drive only from one machine or can any from mobile, laptop, any device?
Yeah,
Any
any other
device.
device.
Same is example here. So in real time also the data which you want to get access it commonly across the team. The team wants to access some data commonly, no matter in which instance they are. So such type of data they will keep in S3. Why? Because from EC2 right away through command line they will access. They no need to
So
change the missions every time.
So,
Just
sir, can I
get.
say that the web server we were having static data, right? Images or some
Right, those things also they'll
investment
store there
model.
only. Yeah, whenever you launch web server, in fact I have given an example also in yesterday's class. Let's say open irctc.com. So where can you see the train image? The train image is pulled from S3 bucket. So that is how the Java people write the code. So whenever people hit irctc.com, it's okay. You can show the source station, destination station from web server content. Web content will be from web server, but the image will be pulled from S3 bucket. Like that.
Yeah, got it, sir.
Yeah. And then transfer acceleration. So the name itself says, what do you mean by transfer acceleration? Just by hearing the name.
Speed of transferring the data.
Alright, transfer acceleration. Transfer acceleration means yes, you are increasing the transfer speed. That is called transfer acceleration. So what speed? What you are transferring first of all? Definitely some data you are transferring, and you want to increase the speed of that data transfer. So let's discuss that. Before I explain you that, you need to have a knowledge of AWS global infrastructure. So AWS global infrastructure is divided into how many categories? Sir? Two things we have already discussed in our demo classes. What are those?
Reason availability zone.
Right, regions and availability zone. So these are only two things we know. But other than that, there is one more thing called right, location. what are these edge locations? These are logical components. You can't say these are exactly what is it? You can't say these are exactly data centers, but definitely region availability zone are data centers where you have your physical data. I mean, the components present in the data center. Where edge locations is not exactly like a data center. Let's say maybe how many regions are there? Let's say we have 25 plus regions. So in every region, let's take example on average of in every region we have three data centers. So total you should have 75 plus availability zones. Across every region you have on an average of 5 edge locations. So that makes this a yes, 125 locations are there across each region. Nearby, not exactly. That's why I said plus plus. So definitely it is more than that. So what are these first of all? So let's take example of Mumbai region. And in Mumbai region, let's say you have in Chennai, Delhi, and Hyderabad, your availability zone. The edge locations need not to be in the same cities like Chennai, Delhi, or Hyderabad. Maybe it can be in somewhere Rajasthan, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal, or somewhere Sikkim. Like this. It need not to be in the same availability zones in the region. It can be somewhere, but definitely it is in the region in Mumbai, in India, but in different places. And second thing is it's not exclusively like a big data center. These are just like logical components. Like how we have Alexa, it's a component, right? It's not exactly something like a big data center, which does its functionality. So here, actually, you see this edge location, they have invented this technology. This is a complete different component. That's what I said. Edge location is a complete different logical component, and they have invented these edge locations for different service. I think in the ending of our course, we'll discuss one service called CloudFront. CloudFront, the other name you can call it as content delivery network. This is one of the service, and this is the part of our course which we are going to discuss theory and practical in the ending, the last class session. So the actually AWS has invented this technology, this edge location technology for a service called CloudFront. But since they thought that they can use in the S3 also for a thing called transfer acceleration, they are using it here, this edge location concept. Okay. So if anyone asks you what is the purpose they have invented edge location, the first thing is they did not invent edge location for S3 actually. They invented for another service called CloudFront. But since somehow everything belongs to AWS, right? All these ingredients, availability zones, S3, CloudFront, different, everything belongs to AWS. So what AWS thought is okay. Let's use for S3 in a form of a service called, transfer acceleration. In S3 service, we use it for a purpose called transfer acceleration. Okay. So for now, forget this. We'll discuss this thing in the ending. What is this plot and content delivery network? I just wanted to give you a basic idea why they have introduced edge location for which purpose. Now let's discuss about the functionality of this edge location. What is this edge location and why we use it? So let me draw the diagram so that you understand more clear. So let's say this bucket is in Europe region. I have explained bucket in Europe region. And what did I say? Let's take example of my project where I'm working in my company. My project, what did I say? The basic thing again. We all work in the same AWS account, but we have 6 different teams working at 24 by 7, 365 days. So definitely, people from multiple countries work on the same project. So some of my friends work from US, some work from Canada, some work from Africa, some work from India, some work from Australia, like that. So, okay, fine. And let's say these are regions, whatever I have mentioned, these are regions. And what did we discuss? Around each region, on an average, how many edge locations are there?
Five.
Five. So let's say here, similarly around China, or more, similar around Africa, Similarly, around India, I have similarly around Australia, I have. Here also around Europe. We have. Fine. So now let's come to the normal technical issues. So let's say, so definitely all these my colleagues from different countries, so they also want to access these S3 buckets. So let's say, so the person, my colleague who is in US, he want to upload or download some data from the S3 bucket which is located in Europe. Same is the case with this Canada guy, Africa, and India and Australia. So there is one more guy in London also. We have one more data center in, and our company, one project is in London also. So around London also, of course, Europe means London, everything falls under same region. So let's this belongs to this sector, London also region. These all is located. Since these are across one region. London and Europe means same. I mean same region, they fall under. So what happens is here, first of all, yes, you can access, you can do everything, but what at what cost? Accessing a data in London from Australia, what will be there? What did we discuss? The technical term. What?
Transfer.
Yeah. Is it speed or fast? As per the global distance, Australia and Europe, India and Europe.
It is based on the speed, sir, because whoever the I mean closer to the region where the data is stored, that would access faster.
Yeah, we have already discussed in the first class why we are practicing every day in Mumbai region. We have discussed the region is we are near to the Mumbai, so we can access it easily. There won't be any latency. So why latency comes into the picture in IT? You should not have any latency, or at least you should try for less latency. So what should I, but that doesn't mean that again I can't change my system because as per my project requirement, maybe I have some S3 bucket I have launched in Europe region. Just for the latency purpose, I cannot launch each S3 bucket in each region. There should be one common S3 bucket, but definitely the people should be accessing it from different countries because it is there from there they are working from their respective home country. So now how can you avoid this latency? Because as a part of your daily nature, you have to upload things, download things from that particular S3 bucket. But at the same time, you should not have latency. That is the first thing. And at the same time, you can't create each S3 bucket in each region. Again, that will create a confusion. You should have a centralized bucket for some purpose, for a centralized purpose. That is the second thing. So how can you achieve these things? So the first thing is definitely you will have a common bucket, common S3 bucket where you store. And that also that will be accessed from different regions. So this is for sure. Even though these things are there, you need to make sure there is no latency. So how can you achieve this? So now whenever you are let's say from Australia, let's say my client, one of my colleagues in Australia, he's trying to access. So from his laptop or EC2 machine in Australia, it will reach to S3 bucket. So whose internet speed this is using this whole process from Australia to Europe? Whose internet speed?
AWS only.
This was his ISP. ISP means Internet Service Provider. So we all have Wi-Fi right at your home. So who is giving you internet? That Wi-Fi provider. So definitely he has some speed. He has some plans, right? 10 Mbps, 20 Mbps, 100 Mbps, 200 Mbps some speed. That is your speed. That means your local internet service provider is giving the data with that much speed. So with the same amount of data, or maybe sometimes less, it will be transferred to the Europe. So that's why you are having latency here. Now to avoid latency, so what we are making use of here, we are making use of this edge location created by the AWS people. So what happens when you enable transfer acceleration? So what I need to do, I need to enable transfer acceleration on this bucket, on this destination bucket. So my source is Australia and my destination is Europe. So what happens when I enable, when my destination bucket is having transfer acceleration enabled, what AWS will do? AWS will first check, okay, the destination bucket is having transfer acceleration enabled or not. If the transfer acceleration is not enabled, the path will be through like this. Straight away with the help of internet service provider switch, straight away it will go to the like this. But definitely there will be latency with why because it's the local internet service speed depends on the internet of the local service internet. But when AWS come to know the transfer acceleration is enabled on the destination bucket where you wanted to copy. So how the data will be transferred? First, from your laptop in your Australia, from your colleague's laptop, it will go to the nearest. The data will be copied to the first nearest edge location. This one. And whose internet speed is this? From your laptop or EC2 instance in Australia to the nearest edge locations of Australia, whose internet speed this is? Local internet service provider speed. But from there, from edge location to the bucket, whose internet speed is this? This is AWS high bandwidth. AWS is having a very huge, very fast internet service speed, but that also between who AWS is having its internet between its logical components. What is the logical component? S3 belongs to AWS. Even edge locations also belongs to AWS. That's why till edge location, you need to use your local internet service speed. Of course, it will take the local your internet service provider speed, but from edge location to the S3 bucket in Europe, it will take the AWS highest bandwidth. So in which scenario the data will be copied first? One or two?
True.
Two.
True.
Why? The reason is you have enabled transfer acceleration. So technically speaking, when you see by eyes, you might be thinking Raymond, in the first case only at least it is going straight like this. So I think this is only fast. Don't see the direction guys, don't see the direction, see the fast which you can't see with your eyes. Even though it looks like straight forward like this and maybe this is looking like it is going like this and like this, but the fast is more here, the speed is more here. Even the distance is more coming here and here. If the speed is more, definitely it will reach fast compared to the straight path. Okay. So transfer acceleration. So whenever anyone asks in entry, what is the transfer acceleration? Definitely you need to use the word edge location. Okay? Edge location. And if they ask you why they need the edge location, they have entered for which service? Cloud Front. But since it belongs to AWS, we are using it for also for the purpose of transfer acceleration in S3 service. And if they ask you the concept, how with the help of edge location, how you are accelerating the transfer of the speed, then you need to explain these concepts, whatever I said. Local internet service provider, AWS high bandwidth between the locations. This you need to explain. Any doubt in this side? The concept which we discussed about this transfer acceleration. If you want, I will show you the same thing in the diagram that I have in this slide. So you see here, this one. So let's say you have in Europe region, some and these are all my colleagues who are working from different regions. All are in my project only. We all work from same AWS account, but their geographical location is there different. One is working from US, one is working from Australia. Like that. So these are all edge locations. What did I say? Across each region, there are 5 edge locations on average. And what is this green color? Whose internet speed is this from your mission to your nearest edge location?
ISP.
ISP. This is the internet storage, your local ISP. But from edge location, that is AWS high bandwidth. That is the reason why between edge location and the AWS component, the fast is more because it is using high bandwidth. And when the high bandwidth comes into the picture, only if you enable the transfer acceleration only. So whatever I explained the same theory, I have mentioned in this slide. So S3 transfer acceleration enables fast, easy, and secure transfer. Transfer what you are transferring files over long distances. This is important. Long distances between your end users and the S3 bucket. End users. That end users can be customers. That end users can be my colleagues. Don't think here I have given you example of my colleagues waste. Let's say your S3 bucket is in Europe, but maybe when someone is accessing IRCTC website from Europe, so definitely his traffic is coming from Europe to my India data center, right? The customer, when they say end user can be your colleague or can be your customer. That is what I'm trying to say. But the concept is same. So here remember concept. Forget about whether this guy is your colleague or customer. So just remember this concept. Okay. And next, transfer acceleration takes advantage of assets, right? Transfer acceleration takes advantage of Amazon CloudFront globally distributed edge locations. What did I say? Edge locations are invented for which service? CloudFront, and we are just taking advantage of it. Since this all belongs to AWS, we taken advantage of this CloudFront. They have included edge location in CloudFront. Just we are taking advantage and we are using it for transfer acceleration purpose. So as the data arrives at an edge location, so data is routed to Amazon S3 over an optimized network path. What do you mean by optimized? Optimized network path means high bandwidth. One from where? From edge location, not from your location. That's why once the data arrives at edge location, from there it will go to the high bandwidth provided by this Amazon. So when we do practicals, whatever we have discussed, you see all the topics, everything we are going to do practical yes. So there you will understand how can we choose whether in which scenario we have to go to transfer acceleration, in which scenario you no need to go to transfer acceleration. They will give you one calculator. I will show you while doing practical. There is a calculator given by AWS, so that let's say you are having a doubt that you want to copy something from Mumbai Institute to Singapore S3 bucket. Why? Because you see, geographically Mumbai and Singapore are nearest regions. In fact, both fall under Asia Pacific AP. So here you are having it out whether you need to enable transfer acceleration or not. Maybe sometimes without enabling transfer acceleration, you can send it directly because it's a nearest region. So in that scenario, you can use the tool provided by AWS. So what that tool will, that calculator will do, it will calculate the distance and it will calculate the transfer speed. If you enable transfer acceleration with how much speed it is going, if you do not enable transfer acceleration with how much speed it is going. So by seeing the result of that calculator, you can take your decision whether transfer acceleration needs to be enabled or not in a Singapore bucket. That will be in the practical. Okay. Any doubts in this? In any theory, whatever, because we are done with theory. Any doubt you can ask me this week. Or else we'll start with one practical. I'll simply show you how to create a bucket, how to make it public private, how to upload an object, how to make it public private, what happens if you make public, that will do practical. Can you start with practicals?
Raymond, so one small doubt.
Yeah.
Raymond, as we know that we have that server was located in somewhere Mumbai or Singapore data center location,
Mm-hmm.
but system don't know where it was located, right? Simply we are going and we are accessing, right? Why the see, latency will be coming? Uh, our
Traffic has to go from where? Traffic has to go from your system. So
yes,
whenever you just see whenever you there is one service in Google, you go and
hmm,
update your locate IP. There is
yes,
so how can they come to know you are in which country? Your system is in India, that also in particular city. They track your location, right? Whenever any
yes.
IP is there, whenever the traffic is coming out of any niche, geographical
Okay,
location is tracked.
okay.
Yeah.
See, Renat, if Europe candidate is having same internet speed and we India people having same internet speed, then what's the then how it will be
No, it's
calculated?
not about your internet speed. Your local internet speed is just for giving a startup boost, but it has
Okay,
to go across the internet has to be exchanged across IPs.
okay,
It not only goes from straight away from your internet service straight away in between, it will be exchanged between different internet service providers till it reaches Europe.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank
So what I'll do? So let's open this concept and we'll see the SQL. We'll do some practical. Let's go to once the S3 console the page loads, just go through the complete page and see if you observe anything different the console other than options, something in general. In that gray screen on the top, not in the below white screen, something on the top gray color bar. Did you observe anything different?
Global. How it is
So what is this? Global.
global.
So here you need to observe is S3 is a global service. It's not a region specific. So don't think again region specific means you can create only in one region. Region specific means you no need to, whenever let's say you want to launch EC2 machine in Mumbai. So you have to change to the Mumbai region. Here you have to scroll drop down and you have to select Mumbai, then only you can create there. Similarly, if you want to create in Singapore, again you have to change and go to Singapore. But with S3, you no need to do all those things. Whatever, whether you want to create in Mumbai region, whether you want to create in Singapore or Canada, you just stay in the same page. You stay in this page only. From here on, you can bucket in any region. You see here, I am in this one page only, but I have created already in my previous classes. I have created in Singapore region, Canada region. That means the advantage with S3 is you can see all the buckets in the same page. No matter in which region you created, you can see all in the same page. You don't need to change it. Why? Because it's a global service. So till now, this is the first service which you are discussing, which is global. Moving further, we'll discuss some more. So in the end, we'll start what are the global services. Okay? So don't think this is something technical. The only advantage of being global is you can see everything in the same page without changing the region. So what happens if you click this global? You can see everything will be freeze. What it says? The first one it says it does not require region selection. That doesn't mean you cannot create in different regions. You can create. See, now I have created here. Now also I will create. The only thing is it means you can see everything in a single page, irrespective of what region you are creating your product. That is called global service. Okay. No technicality. I think I have created this, but I forgot to delete. Let me see. So if anything is there in the bucket, first you need to empty the bucket, then only you can delete it. That's why I said first empty the bucket and then you can delete it. So for deleting the bucket, you need to give the enter the name of the bucket again, and then you can delete. If the bucket is empty already, you can delete it straight away. But if something is there, some data is there inside the bucket, first you need to empty the bucket. That's why I see. First of all, I'm emptying the bucket by saying permanently delete. And now you can delete the bucket. Now it is empty, you can delete. So for deleting, you need to give the name of the bucket. Enter the name of the fine. So this is a S3 console and it's a global service. So what? Let's start with creating bucket. And what did we discuss? Whenever you create a bucket or object, by default is it public or private?
Private.
Right. Right.
So I'm creating bucket. Let's say I'm trying to give as unique name as possible because if I just give Raven, definitely it will be given by someone. So I'm just going something different. Something new. So where you want to create your bucket? Sydney, Singapore, Tokyo. You can search anything. So let's say I want to create in Mumbai. Mumbai. So what is this? Copy settings of the existing. That means if you are having any bucket already in your account and if you want the same settings to your new bucket also, you can choose the bucket. But we don't have any bucket, right? This is the first bucket we are creating. So leave it. Yeah, see? So we know by default the bucket is private when we create. What is the meaning of this then? The meaning of this is your bucket public or not? I mean public or private? What is the meaning of this?
Private.
Private.
Yeah. So don't think it's a all public access. Don't blindly study. What is it? Block public access. That you have marked it. That means you are supporting this. You have blocked all the public access. So you block public access means indirectly it is a private thing. Right? It's a collected bit. So here I wanted to say is while launching the bucket also you can make it public or after launching also you can make it public. Okay. Currently, but by default whenever you are creating it is a private. Okay. So it's okay. Let it be private. After launching I will show you how to make it public. Here if you want to make it public, what you can do simply uncheck this one and say yes I know that now it will become public. So this is how you will do public while launching. But now I am going back to the normal thing. Let it be private. I will show you how to make it public after launching now. So rest all the options leave it. We are going to discuss in tomorrow's class one by one all the options. Yes, so create bucket. So you see here everything you can say at what time, at what date you have created, in which region you have created, what is the name of your bucket. So if you observe the access, what it is saying, study carefully guys. Bucket and object not public. How can they say exclusive about object not public? Even though I did not create any object till now, how can they say it is not public? Simple, simple logic. Why? Because my bucket is private.
Private.
When your bucket is private, even though you make the object inside the bucket public, is there any use? Can the people access it? If you want to make some object accessible to the customer,
Oh,
definitely the object also should be public. At the same time, bucket also should be public. Then only the object will be public to the customer. But here your bucket itself is private. That's why it's saying bucket and object not public. Okay. Now let's go inside the bucket. So here we don't have any object as of now. We did not upload anything, any file, any object. So let's upload any file. You can see here upload from my machine, from my local laptop. I'm uploading. So add files. So I have uploaded. See, automatically it will only grab. So what type of file I'm uploading? My type is image, and its size is 726. And what do we know by default? What is the nature of the object when we are uploading? Is it public or private?
private.
Private, you see. It is a private by default. Only the object owner will have read and write access. If you want, you can give it public access. You can public access. Anyone in the world can access with that. So here are the same thing. While launching the object, I mean while uploading the object also, if you want, you can make it public, or even after creating also, after uploading also, you can make it public. So here, while uploading, if you want to make it public, simply you will mark this as public and say yes, I understood. This will become public. But I am keeping it as is default private and upload. So how can I access this, or how can I give to access this object? I need to give to my customer something, right? Okay, this is the URL. You can access the object. So where you can say go to the object properties. This one. See guys, this is bucket. So inside bucket now I have uploaded the object. You see one object is there now, which is the image. Now how can you give? How can you give something you need to give to your customer, right? If the customer has to access your website, you will give them something google.com. Then only they will access your website. Similarly, if the customers you want your customers to access the objects you have stored in S3 bucket, how can they access? You need to give something to them, right? Some URL. So where can you find that? Click that object in the properties. Here you can see something called object. You are looking. So this one you share with your customer. So copy this. I will share with you also. You can also search it. So try guys. What you are seeing? Try. You can paste anywhere. Mobile, iPad, laptop, desktop, anywhere. Work from anywhere. What did we discuss? Actually, is like a Google Drive. You can access from anywhere.
Access denied.
Access denied. So what are the two reasons for this?
It is private.
Both bucket is private, object
Object
also
private.
private. So what we'll do, let's first make object public. So go to permission. So definitely it's related to permission. So go to the object permission, edit it. See what now we want everyone public access to have. But why you can't get it? First of all, you need to make your bucket public. Without making the what is the meaning of using only object public? So first go to bucket, and now in the object we have permission. See? Currently everything is the block is on. That's why it is private. So what will we edit? Make this public. So make your bucket public. So you are confirming yes, I know. Now it will be everything in my bucket and the object inside my bucket will be public. So now try even though still it will come access denied. Why? Because still our object is
No, it will not come.
no. I have made public only bucket. But what is my object property? Object is still private. I did not change the properties of object. See, if you want you can refresh it. Still you will get access denied. So what you have to do again, you have to change the permission of. Simply you can see here. See now what did I do guys? Observe carefully. Which I made public now just now? I made only
Bucket
bucket public, but object is still
private.
private. So that's why you can see in access what it can before what it say object and both bucket and object are private itself. But now what it is saying only objects can be public. Why can be public? Because already my bucket is public. Whether object is public or private, it depends upon the property of permission of the object. So if I make the object public, it will become public. If I make the object private, it will become private. But because the main outside folder is public, so no issues with the outside one. The issue is only with the inside object. So now what we'll do? Go inside the object and we'll change the permission of object. Object permission. Okay. See? Now we get the public access. Now we have enabled and you have to check. Yes, I understand that this will make this object public and save changes. Now try to access this guys. Try to refresh this page. This one URL.
It is showing now.
See, it is showing. And now if you want, you can check what is it showing in Amazon S3. Objects can be public. So it will show objects will be public. So when it will show objects can be public, only when your bucket is public. Because we don't know. Because what did I say? I already told you. There is some requirement. Sometimes my bucket should be public definitely, but some objects should be public, some objects should be private. This is your use case sometimes. So that's why even though your bucket is public, that doesn't make all the objects inside are public. Because again inside the bucket, each object is having its own individual permission. Some I can keep public, some I can keep private. Okay. So this is how you create a bucket, you upload an object, you change the settings of the permission at bucket level, at object level as per your requirement. Okay. So once you're done, if you want to delete bucket, you can't simply straight away delete it. Of course, you can click delete, but what it will ask you first, it will ask you to empty bucket. Why is our bucket empty or some object is there inside? Our object is there, right? So first what it will say, it will ask you to empty bucket. So what will you click this empty bucket and type permanently delete. Of course, you should type, you can copy and paste. I'm lazy with it. You just copy and paste. And now you can delete it. Now I have just emptied the bucket. I did not delete the bucket. Empty is different, deleting is different. Now you are deleting the bucket. Go to delete. So for deleting bucket, what you need to do? You need to enter the name of the bucket. Any idea, guys? Any idea? Any guesses? Why they are giving like that? That rule that you need to enter the name of the bucket.
Because the name of the bucket is unique, so that is going to be
Yeah, of
useful.
course, of course. The name of the bucket is unique. That's why you can create it first of all. Otherwise, you can't create it.
For
Why?
confirmation.
Right, right. Correct. Confirmation. You see here we are just practicing with one bucket or maybe in coming 2, 3 buckets will practice. But in real time maybe you are having 50 or 60 S3 buckets in your project. So instead of suddenly deleting some test bucket, if you are about to delete some production bucket, that's it. That is the last day of your job. Yes, really it happens. So so that's why at least when you're typing something will be there right in the name of the bucket, something fraud, S3 like that. So at least while typing the name of the bucket, it will strike suddenly your mind. Okay, I'm about to delete some production bucket.
Yes, sir.
Yes, like this. So that's why the best practice is try to type. Don't be lazy. Okay, these things are we are practicing just copying and pasting. But make a habit of typing the bucket ending, no matter how big it is. So that even though sometimes every day you can't work actively in office, sometimes you will be thinking somewhere and working here. So if you delete production bucket by mistake, that's it. You can't do anything. So that's how you delete the bucket. So now this won't be accessible. I can need to install it since we deleted it.
Any storage limitation when you practicing the S3 bucket?
No, some limitation is there, but it's very huge. So you don't need to worry about it. I think it's almost in GB. So you don't need to worry about it. You can practice it. I can say unlimited. That's why I did not do any limitation because it is very huge. Free time limit of 50. You can practice absolutely. You can create 2, 3 buckets, 1, 2, 3 buckets, anything you can upload. How much you'll upload? You won't upload any movies, right? For practice, just you'll upload any PDF file or Word file or text file like that, or images. Like.
Of the day we can delete the bucket, right?
Yeah, that you can delete bucket with anything. Even if the bucket is there in your account, they won't charge anything. So we already discussed how you will get charged different aspects: data, transfer speed, requesting. Those things comes into the picture. Just because you are having a free bucket in your account, they won't charge you simply. Only if you are accessing on some using it for some purposes, then only you will get the bill. Okay, yes, yeah. Yeah, you have any doubts? You can ask. I'm done with today's. Fine then. Have a good, nice day. We'll meet in tomorrow's class. Bye.